So I'm Becca Sibrian, I teach German, and my lightning talk is about building relationships in larger classes. It's important to build relationships in whatever classroom that you're in, but especially in a larger classroom. And that was a keynote from a pillar from the keynote speaker earlier this morning, this idea of building relationships. So when I was an undergrad, I took a large history lecture course that had over 175 students. And in the first week, the instructor was at the door meeting us, introducing himself and asking our names. And by the end of the first week, 2 sessions, he already knew everybody's name. And a few weeks later, he already had details about us, follow-up questions, and he was really good at building relationships. I usually teach in very small classrooms. My German classes cap at 25 students. I have no problem building relationships in a small class. Language also lends itself to that as well. Like, I know a lot about my students, they know a lot about me. You have to be able to have that a safe space in order to you create language and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. But when I got the opportunity to teach a UF 100 course, I thought, how am I going to build relationships with 100 students when I don't talk to every single one of them every day? And so I did what all good teachers do. I stole an idea from other UF 100 faculty, and that was guided reflection. On the first day of class and every day after, I am at the door with a piece of paper. Paper is important for me. I want them to write on a piece of paper and hand it to me at the end of class. So I can acknowledge them. So I can, if I forgot their name, I can look real quick and say, hey, how's it going? So paper is important. Also, with classroom limitations, I'm not always able to get to students in the classrooms that I get. So that paper at the beginning of class and at the end of class, I have some kind of interaction with students if they're not speaking up in class. The types of questions that I ask are sometimes they're reading or film. It's a film class, so film related. Did you like the film? Specifically, what did you think about this? Do you agree with this argument? But I also ask questions like, what's giving you energy this week? Or what are you watching on Hulu or Netflix? Or what questions do you have? Or a question that comes up, what can I do to help you be successful in this class and beyond? And it's important to me, these reflections, that students have enough time. So I build in 5 minutes at the end of every class for them to take the time to answer these questions. And yeah, that's 5 minutes, but that reflection and that relationship that we're building with each other is more important than the content that I have. I read every reflection every time. That doesn't take that long, and that's an important step in this process of building relationships. But I also answer at least 10 every class period. I ask students in a pre-class survey, do they want communication via email or text? I have a Google Voice number that I text from, so it's not my personal number, that is already open for communication. So I answer students, and I usually get about 75% of my students that are responding back. And it's either, sharing resources or saying, hey, I was watching that too. What did you think about that part of that film? Or anything that will help build relationships with that. It also helps me have that pulse on the class. So I really know, besides the personal questions, I really know, well, a lot of students didn't like that reading, and so or didn't connect with that reading, so I can follow up with that. But more importantly, it really is about building those relationships. I want to know all of my students' name as soon as I can, and I'm really able to do that when I'm reading those reflections and looking at faces while I'm doing it during that first week. I can't imagine teaching this class without having these reflections at the end. There would no way that I would teach a large class without having some kind of personal connection with students. And it's also introduced me to a lot of great music and films and TV shows that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to see if I hadn't asked those questions. Thanks.